Hey, thanks for joining us today, Hail Stalkers. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we are tracking storms on this Thursday afternoon, mainly across South Dakota and Nebraska. For tomorrow, Omaha is directly in the path of the storms, and we'll talk about that storm timeline here in just a few minutes. But it's really the Dakotas once again today. Big hail, low tornado risk, Omaha for tomorrow. And then on Saturday, we go up to New England, where we have a few storms across the Midwest and New England states. We could also have a few storms on Saturday and Sunday across Oklahoma and Texas. Right now, we're watching for a line of storms just across Pierre. Now you can see as we head farther down to the south, we've got some stronger storms across the northern side of Concordia. This is Kansas, okay? So there's Kansas City, there's Lincoln, Nebraska, Omaha right there, Concordia getting some of the heaviest rain that we have on the radar right now. And then as we go down to the eastern side of Texas, it's been on and off rain for them for the last 3 or 4 days, and that is continuing this afternoon. Take a look at what we saw yesterday, your 24-hour storm reports here. We have a lot of areas across the U.S. that had storms yesterday, okay? Very similar to what we saw on Monday and Tuesday. It was a little bit of everything. We had hail just outside of Denver yesterday, just outside of Greeley, Colorado, to the north of Denver, to the south of Denver. But Denver itself did not get hit yesterday. We also had some hail and some strong wind and a tornado report across North Dakota. This was the area of biggest concern, but we did have showers and storms across Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and even Texas. So despite there being a very clear area of concern, we had storms just about everywhere across the plains. Now, why do we have these very odd moving storms this time of the year? We've had that on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and now probably today as well. To answer that question, I'm going to bring in meteorologist Martin Lauermore.
Hey, thanks, Taylor. I mean, the thing is that what we've been watching over the next couple of days is really just areas of concern where we're not seeing what we call a lot of forcing. Now, we can get forcing in many different ways. Most of the time we get it through cold fronts. We usually see them get the air lifted up, but the thing is we have multiple different ingredients for these storms. So this is an example we saw 2 days ago. This is DFW. They had that severe thunderstorm warning that triggered over Dallas-Fort Worth, and this right here was a weird one. Notice storms moving the wrong way. Why are they going west? Well, these storms right here were more than likely actually triggered by the city itself through a heat island effect. It was very hot this day, and that is what caused that forcing. There was already all different kinds of ingredients with this storm as we got into that day. So we usually talk about 4 ingredients for those storms. Moisture, dew points were sitting in the 70s that day, perfectly checked off that marker. So again, we move on to our second one. Those storms, they need this moisture to really tap into that energy. Shear, we did have it. If you actually saw, I'm going to go back here real quick so you can actually see. Well, that's a little too far. There we go. So notice we have the overall movement of the storms, and we had a northerly vector for these winds. So you had your north wind up higher, we had our west wind moving in this direction. That gives us that shear. So we had the second ingredient already taken care of. We had moisture, we had that shear, and we also had plenty of heat. Like I said, it was very hot that day. Now the thing is we didn't actually have forcing in the classic sense. Forcing is that upward initial momentum. The reason we got that forcing was through the heat island effect. You can get forcing in many different ways. You can get it through what we call a mesolow, which is basically just a small little pocket about the size of maybe a city, maybe half the size of a state of an area of low pressure. That can provide an initial little just kickstart to get those storms to move upwards, and then after that, that heat will allow that to pretty much take over from there. Now, of course, we usually see our forcing when it comes to terms of the cold front. Now, cold fronts, basically, they act like a wedge as they push the warmer air up. You have that colder air underneath, and that's what really causes those storms to fire upwards. You get that warm air to move up, and that causes those warm air parcels, we call them, to condensate, turn into clouds, and that's how you get those storms inside that cold front. So that's normally a more classic sense, but the reason why these storms are so weird if we're not seeing this cold front right here is because we've essentially derailed the train. We don't have any you can really think of it as being pretty much on a train. If we're off of those tracks, we don't know where we're going at this point. So we can get these storms that do look a little bit funkier, moving, maybe over from the east to the west, which is not really a classic sense. Usually zonal flow is west to east, which is generally what we see those storms rolling as. So again, we're not going to be seeing any large scale forcing other than that cold front that is going to be moving over the Dakotas for today and moving its way into the central plains. But beyond that, we're going to get back to Taylor talking more about that forecast and what you can be expecting with more of these pre-bridge storms.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. So while you can see right here, we've got those low pressure systems farther up to the north. We've got a very clear boundary across the Dakotas. That's where we expect the most or the more numerous amount of storms to be today. Down to the south, we still have rain going on. Could one of these go severe? It's possible. This is where those train tracks that Martin was talking about is. They've got clear forcing. If we have any storms down here, they'll move very, very slow. So Martin explained that, and that makes a lot of sense for what we've been seeing over the last few days. Let's go ahead and talk about our current conditions. Again, that low pressure system farther up to the north is keeping things pretty active in this area. We've got lots of rain down in Texas and Louisiana. These storms moving pretty quickly across northern Kansas and the eastern portion of Nebraska. Currently, we've got that heat, 80 degrees in Kansas City, 84 in Oklahoma City. It's pretty warm out there, typical for June. Let's go ahead and look at the synoptic setup. So what synoptic means is a large-scale system. High-pressure system over here with this ridge across Atlanta. Low-pressure system farther out to the Pacific Northwest. And right in the middle, that's where things get a little dicey. What exactly is going to happen there? So let's talk about it. Here's your severe weather risk for today. Near that low pressure system. All right, we've got a level 2 risk right there highlighted in yellow. Another level 2 risk for tomorrow. I was talking about Omaha right in the middle of this risk for Friday. On Saturday, we have 2 areas to watch for, one across Montana and North Dakota, another across our New England states. So that's something to watch for your weekend, during your weekend. And then Sunday, we've got another up to North Dakota. Now, these are the areas that we're concerned about right now. However, could we see a pop-up storm or two down in Oklahoma? I think that's absolutely possible. If you go back and if you look at our future jet stream, you can see this little low pressure system that's trying to work its way into western Oklahoma, into the panhandle of Texas on Saturday, but it looks to strengthen as we head into Sunday. So that could bring us more active wet weather across the plains, the southern plains, and bring that severe weather back down to the south as we head into the later portion of the weekend or even next week. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's stick with today first. Today, we have a level 2 flash flood threat across the Dakotas and Iowa and Nebraska. Another level 2 flood threat across Iowa tomorrow. Today, your wind forecast, greatest place to see some strong wind with these storms is anywhere from Rapid City to Valentine, Nebraska, into Sioux Falls. And then we've got a very low chance for storms across Kansas, including Wichita, Salina, and Topeka. So it's kind of 2 areas to watch for today. We'll start with that first area in South Dakota, so Rapid City right here. You can see that we've got a level 1 tornado risk, level 1 tornado risk for Salina and Topeka, just north of Kansas City, including St. Joe, and Omaha, Nebraska, included in that risk as well. Now, I will outline for you, here's what you're going to see from your significant hail model. A much better risk for large hail with this first area of concern, lower risk for large hail across Omaha and Kansas. Low hail chance, level 1 tornado risk, high risk for hail, level 1 tornado risk. Okay, let's go through this here. Let's first look at that hail risk. Ooh, okay, we've got some reds, some oranges on the board here. That could signify some really decent hail sizes up to the size of a baseball. Right now, we're watching for that line of storms across southern Nebraska and northern Kansas, but we're going to see later on this afternoon more isolated discrete cells form right near Rapid City. That, I think, will be the highest risk for severe storms today. We're talking about those discrete supercells. If they can stay isolated, if they can stay discrete. Ooh, Rapid City right there, 4 o'clock this afternoon. That's whenever we see that severe weather, significant severe weather. We can see that tornado risk as well as that large hail risk. Later on tonight, we transfer into that wind risk as these kind of congeal into a long line of storms. Storms become more numerous across the state. Before we move on, from what we see today, do we have any weather questions about these areas? What about Virginia and Pennsylvania? Okay, we'll definitely get to that whenever we talk about storms on Saturday. Anything for Thursday? We're all good. Okay, so let's stick with Thursday just for the moment. I do have Saturday in the forecast. Baseball-sized hail for the largest hail size today. Where would we expect that? Again, I kind of pointed out two areas for you. This area over here, that northwestern area across South Dakota and Nebraska, there's your hail risk. Still a tornado risk down near Topeka, very low hail risk, okay? Said that once, I'll probably say it again in this forecast. Rapid City, Valentine, with that largest risk for large hail today, up to baseball-size hail this afternoon. Moving on, let's talk about your timeline here. I kind of already said earlier 4 o'clock for Rapid City, so we're going to go about 3 to 5 o'clock for storm initiation across the western portion of South Dakota. Storms will continue to track to the east, slowly clearing us from that severe weather risk through the evening hours. Still, through the overnight hours tonight, central to eastern South Dakota will have a severe weather risk, and then a flooding risk after that as storms continue into the morning hours. If we take a look at your timeline for places like Wichita and Kansas City, it's a low severe weather risk, but still with this amount of storms, we don't have that forcing, as Martin was talking about earlier. We could see an isolated severe risk or severe storm or two. For the most part, most of these storms will stay non-severe. The biggest threats here is going to be small hail and 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts with an isolated tornado threat. As we head into the overnight hours, it may be a wet commute for some as this long line of storms continues to track to the east by early tomorrow morning. And we've already gotten a ton of rain across this area. We appreciate the rain for this time of the year. It cools us down a little bit, but too much of a good thing turns into a bad thing. We have a level 2 scattered flash flood risk across the northern portion of Kansas all the way up into Nebraska and Iowa for today, Iowa for tomorrow. So let's get into tomorrow. We're still watching for this little short wave that's moving through the area. This is going to cause problems for tomorrow. I'm going to fast forward here. There you go. Here's your hail risk for tomorrow. This is Friday. I know it says Thursday up there. It's actually Friday. So storms on Friday, Lincoln, Nebraska, Omaha included in here. I would put Omaha at this level 2, this moderate risk here. Des Moines also included in that level 2, that moderate risk for large hail. Once again, largest hail size for tomorrow includes that baseball size hail. I think you could absolutely see baseball size hail tomorrow. Who thinks that we could maybe get baseball size hail in Omaha tomorrow? You guys are right in the middle of the risk. We could also see some strong wind across this area, and we have a level 1 tornado threat too. This is just outside of Omaha, includes Lincoln, Nebraska. It's in the southeastern portion of Nebraska. Now let's talk about Saturday. Okay, someone asked about Virginia and Pennsylvania, right? Let's take a look at that hail risk for Saturday across Virginia and Pennsylvania. Especially the northern side of Pennsylvania will be in that hail risk. I've got you guys in a small hail risk. Okay, so like small hail, quarter size to $half size hail. This is probably one of the more impressive risks that you guys have seen in a while. I mean, it's been really warm in this area, right? It's been pretty quiet in terms of severe weather. All across the Midwest, it's been quiet. So you guys are finally starting to see some of that active wet weather. I think that you're going to see a better chance for larger hail in Indiana and in Ohio. Again, this is your wind forecast on Saturday, so let's talk about wind. Glasgow all the way down to Glendive has a chance for, and actually a pretty good chance for large hail in that area. That's Montana and North Dakota. And then as we see storms move to the east, on Saturday, it may not be a great hail forecast over here, but it's going to be a really good chance for wind. So we have that level 2 wind forecast for Pittsburgh, and then really I would expand this yellow, this moderate level 2, all the way across Pennsylvania. So there's your 3 risks, right? Today, tomorrow, there's Friday. Friday includes Chicago, by the way, mainly a wind risk in Chicago. Tornado risk will be out in Nebraska. There's Saturday. What about Sunday? So Sunday is whenever we could start bringing Oklahoma and Texas into the mix. And I really think It's more like north central Texas, including DFW, to eastern Oklahoma. But here's the thing. It's such a low chance right now, and we don't have a lot of great model data for 4 days out, that we can't say exactly where or when things are going to happen. Maybe it's more of a flooding risk and we don't see a ton of severe weather in this area. It's possible, but I will tell you that things are starting to change. This very awkward pattern where we've had most of our storms up to the north and just a few little scattered storms down to the south across Oklahoma, Texas, Colorado, and Kansas, that pattern that we've seen this week is about to change as we head into next week. What we start to see here, and I think we go back to, I actually want to pull up our 500 millibar map that I was showing earlier, because it shows how this pattern is going to remove that low pressure system from the north, and it's going to start to bring down a trough right into the center of the U.S. And I don't know if this graph goes out this far, but basically what we're going to see is this trough that's on the west coast. It's going to move more into the center portion of the U.S. You can kind of start to see that pattern happening on Monday, but it really amplifies on Tuesday and Wednesday. This is what's going to help to bring us more severe weather by the middle to end of next week. Here we are next Thursday. There's that nice trough as it continues to push to the east. That's going to bring us more typical spring-like weather into this area. And I know it's not even spring, it's June, but I do think it'll be a spring-like setup next week. All right, moving on to temperatures, unless we have any questions. John says we're all good. Great, well, thanks for joining us today. I do want to mention that we're on a warming trend. We're going to see those temperatures continue to warm up through the weekend and into the early portion of next week. What about into the middle of June? Right now we're looking at June 9th through the 13th. This warming trend continues. And we've got some wet weather moving in. This is a very common trend that we've seen this June. The first 2 weeks have been above average in terms of rainfall, and it looks like we're going to continue that pattern as we head into the middle of the month. And there's your forecast. Thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and as always, if you're watching on TikTok or the vertical version on YouTube, head over to our YouTube or Facebook pages to see the full version. And everyone else, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, or give us a call at 855-334-4245 or email us at info@hailtrace.com. We have hail, wind, and tornado maps mapped back 15 years ago. We're on our 16th year here at HailTrace, so head over to HailTrace.com for more information on that. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you back here for your forecast, same time, same place tomorrow.